Salatu wassalam ala mawlana Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. My dear brothers, all praise is due to Allah. We praise Him, we thank Him. We seek His help, seek forgiveness, seek refuge with Him from the evils of ourselves and from the wrong of our doings. Whomever Allah Azza wa Jal guide, he will not be misled, and who goes astray, he will not be guided except if Allah Azza wa Jal wants him to be guided. My dear brothers, my dear sisters, we started talking about something that is very important, about the pillar of the Islam, which is Hajj. But we looked at it from a different angle. We looked at it from the angle of what are the values, what are the educational values that Hajj tries to teach us. It is something that is mandatory upon us, upon all the Muslims, at least once in a lifetime. And that's for a reason, so that it reminds you the story of a great man. That great man is no one else but Ibrahim. It is the story that will remind you how much struggle he has endured. It is a story that should remind you how much submission he has shown in fulfilling the command of Allah Azza wa Jal. And it is a story that shows you that in all his life, you will find him going back, invoking Allah Azza wa Jal. You will find him going back, making dua to Allah Azza wa Jal. And these are the three components that I wanted to talk about. The first one is what I talked about last week, is all the struggle and all the trials that Ibrahim have gone through in his life. From his own community, where nobody worships Allah Azza wa Jal, where he grew up in a complete darkness, in a community of ignorant, where nobody worships Allah Azza wa Jal, and he has a great trial by living in that community. Not only that, he has a great trial by his own father, who said, Ya Ibrahim, when he called him to worship the Lord, when he called him to worship Allah Azza wa Jal, he said, Ya Ibrahim, لَإِن لَمْ تَنْتَهْ لَأَرْجُمَنَّكَ وَهْجُرْنِي مَلِيًّا. If you shouldn't stop calling me, or if you shouldn't stop asking me to worship your Lord, then just leave me off. And if you don't do so, I'm going to stone you. So you see how much struggle he has endured in his life. And it was no surprise that Allah Azza wa Jal, he makes him a comprehensive leader. He makes him a ummah. Inna Ibrahim kana ummah. On his own, he's like a community. Why? Because he has shown so much patience in front of the trials. Not only that, but he has shown so much submission to Allah Azza wa Jal. And we will see it through two stories. The first one is the story of Ibrahim. And Ibrahim, he didn't have a child until he was old. Until he became very old, and he got a child at that age. And imagine the joy of being father at such age. Especially when he has struggled throughout his life and he never had a child before. So imagine the joy, imagine the happiness of having a child. Ibrahim, he was asked to take this child and his mom and put them in a land, as Allah Azza wa Jal has described, uncultivated land. There's nobody, there's nothing to eat, nothing to drink. Yet he submits to the command of Allah Azza wa Jal. Yet he fulfills what Allah Azza wa Jal asks him to do. Yet, he takes his family and he goes and he put them in that land, which is nothing else but where the Kaaba is today. But where the Kaaba, Zamzam, and all of this Masjid al-Haram is today. He leaves them in that land and he starts making his way back, as Allah Azza wa Jal has asked him. And he didn't ask, or he didn't go back to Allah Azza wa Jal, why do I need to leave them at such an age? No. When he was asked and when he was ordered to do something, Ibrahim, he submitted totally to the command of Allah Azza wa Jal. So he left them and started making his way back. His wife, Ismail, she kept asking him. She kept repeating to him, where are you leaving us? Are you leaving us in a land that is uncultivated? There is nobody, there is nothing. And Ibrahim, he just kept going. He kept going for a reason. He kept going because he was ordered to leave them in that land and to leave them and come back. And that's exactly what he has done. And to the point that Ismail, that the mother of Ismail, she might have understood why Ibrahim was doing so. And she asked him, Allah amaraka bihada? Is it Allah Azza wa Jal who has ordered you to do what you are doing? And Ibrahim, he said, yes. Upon which she didn't ask him anymore. Upon which she just showed the same submission as her husband has showed. And this shows you how much this family was a beloved family. And this shows you how much this family was, and all the rituals of the Hajj that we see today are linked to this family. She only replied to him, إِذًا لَن يُضَيِّعَنَا. He is not going to leave us with nothing. And she was left with few drops of water. She was left with few dates. And once that has finished, she doesn't want to see her child dying in front of her. She went to the Safa and she stood up on the Safa, which is a small mountain, trying to see if anybody is around, if anybody who can help them with some water, with something to drink. But she couldn't see anybody. She made her way back to the Marwa, and she did the same thing. She went on the mountain, the small mountain of the Marwa, trying to see if anybody is there. And she did the same for 7 times. And that's exactly what we are tasked to do up to today. And this is part of the A'mal Hajj, which is السعي بين الصفا والمروة. يقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فذلك سعي الناس بين الصفا والمروة اليوم. And that is exactly why people are doing this sa'i بين الصفا والمروة up to today. You see how much submission. And it is no surprise that we need to follow the same steps. We need to follow the same tasks. We need to follow the same rituals as Ibrahim has done for this reason. Because it is a blessed family. A family that has fully and totally submitted to Allah Azza wa Jal. The second event that shows how much submission Ibrahim has had in his life is, as I just mentioned, Ibrahim had a child when he was very old. And Allah Azza wa Jal, a second time he asks him to sacrifice his child. فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَعَهُ السَّعْيِ قَالَ يَا بُنَيَّ إِنِّي أَرَى فِي الْمَنَامِ إِنِّي أَذْبَحُكَ. When he has reached an age of understanding, an age where his son was able to understand, was able to interact with Ibrahim, he told him, إِنِّي أَرَى فِي الْمَنَامِ أَنِّي أَذْبَحُكَ. I see a vision in my dream that I need to sacrifice you. And رُؤْيَ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ حَقٌّ. And the ru'ya of the Anbiya is part of their wahi. So the fully and the totally submitted child who is doing nothing but following the steps of his father. And by the way, this is totally, it shows you that if you are submitted to Allah Azza wa Jal, if you are fully committed to Allah Azza wa Jal, then you can expect your child to be the same. Don't expect your child to be totally submitted to Allah Azza wa Jal when you are just neglecting your duties. When you don't come to the prayer of the Fajr and you expect your son that he's going to wake up and come. The son is only going to follow the steps that you have traced for him. The steps that he has shown you taking. And Ibrahim, as I said, he has fully submitted to the command of Allah Azza wa Jal. And he was at the point where he laid his son down and he turned him on his back so that he don't see him killing his son. And Allah Azza wa Jal has chosen to take off the son and to make and to bring a sheep. And that is exactly why up to today people are sacrificing a sheep. And this is linked to this story of Ibrahim. It should remind you how much submission Ibrahim had. It should remind you that there is a verse that says, إِنَّمَا كَانَ قَوْلَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِذَا دُعُوا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ لِيَحْكُمَ بَيْنَهُمْ أَن يَقُولُوا سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا. The words of the believers, when they hear the command of Allah Azza wa Jal, when Allah Azza wa Jal and His prophets asking them to submit to something, the only thing that they reply with is that we hear and we obey. And it was no surprise that Allah Azza wa Jal will take Ibrahim as an intimate friend. Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, وَاتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ خَلِيلًا. He has taken him as an intimate friend. And this is for all of this submission that Ibrahim has shown throughout his life. All of these trials that he has endured, and yet he was fully patient in these trials. صلى الله عليه وسلم أن ينفعنا بما سمعنا وأن يعلمنا ما ينفعنا إنه لذلك القادر عليه. اللهم أصلح لنا ديننا الذي هو عصمة أمرنا ودنيانا التي فيها معاشنا وآخرتنا التي إليها معادنا. اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. اللهم اغننا بحلالك عن حرامك وبفضلك عمن سواك. اللهم يا رب العالمين اللهم اجعلنا صابرين محتسبين. اللهم ارزقنا الصبر عند البلاء والشكر عند النعماء. اللهم اجعلنا يا رب العالمين من المنقادين لأوامرك. اللهم اجعلنا من الطائعين لك يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعلنا من الطائعين لك. اللهم إنا نسألك يا أرحم الراحمين يا رب العالمين أن تجعلنا صابرين عند البلاء، وأن تجعلنا منقادين لك يا رب العالمين يا أكرم الأكرمين. عباد الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي، يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون.